For centuries, the galaxy's most advanced civilizations had one unwritten rule: never enter human space. It was a law not enforced by governments or leaders, but by something far stronger: fear. Stories of human unpredictability and their fierce defense of their territory spread like wildfire through the stars. No one could explain it, but all the galaxy's great races knew one thing: you don't go near Earth. The galaxy's oldest species had been exploring the stars for eons. The Zorath Alliance, a union of powerful alien races, was among the galaxy's most respected coalitions. Their technology was unmatched, their weapons deadly, and their armies immense. They had fought countless wars and conquered countless worlds. But Earth, the small blue planet in a distant solar system, had remained untouched. No one dared approach. To the aliens, it was an enigma. Why were humans different? Why did they remain off-limits? There had to be some powerful force keeping the humans in their place, but it was never made clear. Some believed it was just superstition, others thought it was a legend that got out of hand. But all the same, the Zorath Alliance kept their distance, yet the time had come for something to change. The Zorath Alliance had grown tired of waiting, tired of hearing about humanity's strength, tired of hearing about their fury. They decided it was time to face the truth, to prove once and for all that humans were no different from any other species. In the heart of the Zorath Council, a group of the Alliance's most influential leaders gathered. "We have waited long enough," said Commander Varnak, the Alliance's fiercest warrior. His green skin shimmered beneath the cold lights of the command room. His voice was deep and filled with determination. "The humans are weak, primitive. The stories have been exaggerated. It's time we show them their place in the galaxy." His words were met with a murmur of agreement. The Zorath Alliance was tired of living in the shadow of a species they thought to be inferior. They were convinced that their advanced ships, weapons, and strategies would make short work of the humans. They would go to Earth. They would end this myth of human power once and for all. The plan was set in motion. The Zorath fleet launched from their homeworld, a powerful armada of ships designed for both speed and strength. Their sleek metallic vessels gleamed under the distant stars as they cruised toward their target. This wasn't just a mission, it was a declaration. They were going to conquer Earth, dismantle the mystery, and take their place as the galaxy's supreme power. The journey through the void of space was uneventful. For days, the ships glided through the emptiness, with nothing but the cold silence of space surrounding them. But as they approached the outer edge of human space, something unexpected happened. Their sensors began to malfunction. At first, it was a small glitch, just a flicker on the screen, a minor delay in communication. But then it got worse. The further they traveled into the humans' territory, the more their instruments began to fail. The Zorath ships couldn't detect anything beyond their hulls. Their navigation systems shut down. Their communications went dark. It wasn't just a technical error. It was as if something, some force, was blocking their access to the very space they were trying to enter. "I don't like this," muttered Varnak to his officers. "Prepare the fleet for a full scan. There must be a reason for this interference." But no matter how much they searched, they couldn't find the source. They knew that Earth was out there, somewhere beyond the veil of failed technology, but it was as though the very fabric of space itself was protecting it, an invisible barrier that neither their ships nor their technology could break through. "It's like we've entered a ghost zone," said Chief Engineer Tharn, an alien race known for their brilliant minds. "Every sensor is blocked. I can't even trace our own location." This was not just a simple glitch. It was something far more troubling. For the Zorath, who were used to controlling every situation with their technology, this was an unsettling experience, and still, they pressed on. The Zorath fleet eventually broke through the invisible barrier and entered the heart of human space. However, their victory was short-lived. Just as the first ships crossed the threshold into Earth's territory, the fleet began to feel a strange, oppressive presence. It was as though the very air they breathed was heavy with tension, as if something was watching them, waiting. General Alyssa Carter, one of humanity's greatest leaders and tacticians, was standing in front of a massive digital screen in her command center on Earth. The information was coming in fast, but she had already anticipated the Zorath's move. Humanity had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Hidden deep beneath Earth's surface, there were systems, machines, weapons, and technology that had been built specifically for this day. General Carter had known that the day the Sci-Fi Zorath alliance came to challenge humanity would eventually come. They would underestimate them. They would mistake Earth for an easy target. And now, the time had come for her to make her move. As the Zorath fleet ventured deeper into human space, the tension in the command room grew. The aliens had assumed they would be greeted with open space, ready for the taking. Instead, they encountered something they couldn't understand. A signal was sent from Earth, a message, an almost imperceptible whisper across the void of space. "Welcome to human space." For the Zorath, those words were more than just a greeting. They were a warning. Then, without warning, the entire fleet began to experience problems. One by one, the alien ships began to lose power. Their engines sputtered. Their weapon systems failed. The fleet began to drift aimlessly, and the Zorath commanders were forced to issue orders to abandon their primary mission. What had been an easy conquest now seemed impossible. "What is happening?" Varnak demanded. His anger was barely contained. "Why are our systems failing?" In his frustration, he turned to his officers. "We must push forward, full speed, ahead." But it was no use. Their weapons remained dormant. The Zorath ships, designed to destroy entire worlds, were helpless before the silent forces they couldn't even comprehend. Back on Earth, General Carter knew exactly what was happening. Humanity had created something extraordinary, a defense system so advanced that even the most advanced species couldn't see it coming. The technology had been in place for decades, designed to protect Earth from the unknown. The barrier was not just a defense network, it was humanity's silent response to the galaxy's doubts. And now, the Zorath Alliance would learn the hard way that no species could enter human space without consequence. The Zorath Alliance had always prided themselves on their technological superiority. Their ships, their weapons, their armies, every aspect of their civilization was built to be the best. And yet, as they drifted helplessly through human space, it was clear that they were no longer the most powerful force in the galaxy. Commander Varnak paced back and forth in the war room of his flagship, his green skin glowing dimly under the harsh lights. His mind raced. How had this happened? How had they, the most advanced species in the galaxy, been so thoroughly outmaneuvered? "What is going on?" he demanded again, his voice rising with frustration. "Why can't we regain control? Our weapons should be firing by now. We should be destroying everything in our path." His officers could only shake their heads in confusion, each one as puzzled as their commander. The Zorath ships, once the most advanced in the galaxy, were now completely useless. Every attempt to reboot the systems failed. Nothing worked. Every sensor, every scanner, every weapon was offline. It wasn't just a malfunction, it was something deeper, something that made the Zorath feel vulnerable in a way they had never experienced before. For the first time, the Zorath were at the mercy of something unknown. Back on Earth, General Alyssa Carter was watching the unfolding situation with a calm expression. She stood before a vast array of holographic screens, each one displaying the positions of the Zorath ships in real time. There was no fear, no doubt. Humanity had been preparing for this day for decades, and now it was time to reveal what they had kept hidden. It wasn't just about military power. It was about something much more fundamental. the power of human ingenuity. Humans, with their ingenuity, had created a defense system so advanced that even the most powerful alien races could not have imagined it. And now, that system was in full effect. General Carter had been part of the team that helped design the Human Dominion Protocol, a global initiative that had been kept secret from the rest of the galaxy. It was a plan to defend Earth from any external threat, but it was also a message. Humanity was not to be underestimated. With a calm, deliberate motion, General Carter pressed a series of commands on the screen. The Zorath fleet, still stranded in space, would soon feel the full force of what humanity had created. The time for diplomacy, for negotiation, was over. Humanity would no longer be silent. The Zorath fleet was surrounded by an invisible force, a force they could not see, but could feel growing stronger with each passing second. Suddenly, every ship in the fleet began to experience a strange sensation, a sudden shift, a disorientation, as if the fabric of space itself had bent around them. It was as if the universe was shifting its weight, pressing down on them from all sides. "We have to move," shouted Varnak, his eyes wide with alarm. "We can't stay here. We need to retreat now." But his words were drowned out by the panic that had begun to spread through the fleet. The Zorath ships, helpless, had no choice but to drift. The once proud fleet designed for battle was now reduced to a floating target. They were no longer the hunters. They were the hunted. On Earth, General Carter's team worked tirelessly, sending signals and commands to the human defense systems that were now activating one by one. Humanity's military might was not just a matter of numbers, but of the strategic brilliance that had been hidden for so long. Across the planet, human soldiers prepared for the next phase of the operation. Each person knew their role, and they moved with purpose. The Human Dominion Protocol had been designed to coordinate every aspect of Earth's defense, from the ground to the skies. It was more than just a military strategy. It was a symbol of humanity's determination to protect their home and ensure their place in the universe. Aboard Earth's most advanced warships, men and women worked alongside cutting-edge AI systems to guide their vessels into position. General Carter's command center was the nerve center of Earth's defense, and from there, she saw the entire battlefield unfold before her. The Zorath ships were now completely surrounded, their once pristine hulls gleaming under the light of distant stars were now shadows in the vast emptiness of space. The Zorath fleet had nowhere to go. They had entered human space, and now they were trapped. Suddenly, a massive Zorath ship, the largest in the fleet, began to move. It was a desperate attempt to break free, to escape the invisible force that held them in place. But before it could make any significant progress, a massive beam of energy shot from the sky, straight toward the Zorath ship. The beam struck with incredible precision, hitting the ship's outer hull. The force of the impact sent ripples across the fleet. The Zorath ship, once a symbol of their power, now shuddered under the intensity of the attack. For a brief moment, there was nothing but silence. And then the Zorath ship exploded. A brilliant flash of light lit up the dark void of space as the ship was torn apart in an instant. The Zorath fleet watched in horror as the remains of their flagship drifted into nothingness. It had been a single strike, one that was meant to show the Zorath the true power of humanity. General Carter watched the destruction unfold on her screens. There was no joy, no celebration, just a quiet sense of resolve. This was not about vengeance. It was about sending a message to the galaxy. Never again would humanity be underestimated. The explosion of the Zorath flagship sent shockwaves through the fleet. Varnak, the commander, stood at the center of the bridge, staring at the images of the wreckage. His mind raced, and for the first time in his life, he felt completely out of control. The once mighty Zorath alliance had been brought to its knees by a single swift strike from a species they had dismissed as weak and insignificant. "Retreat!" he shouted. "All ships, we need to pull back immediately!" But it was too late. The humans had already sealed their fate. The Zorath fleet, disoriented and broken, was no match for the sheer might of human innovation. The galaxy would never be the same. The Zorath had learned their lesson the hard way. They had come to Earth expecting to conquer. Instead, they had awakened the sleeping lion. On Earth, the message had been delivered loud and clear. The Zorath would not be the last to try to invade. But every alien species in the galaxy would now know one thing for certain. Humanity would not go down without a fight. The victory was bittersweet. General Carter knew that this was only the beginning. There were other civilizations out there, other powers waiting to test humanity's resolve. But for now, humanity had proved its strength. The galaxy would never again underestimate the human race. The awakening had begun, and there was no turning back now. The Zorath alliance was no longer the confident, dominant force it once was. Their fleet was in chaos, scattered across the vast reaches of human space. The explosion of their flagship had struck fear into their hearts, and the remaining ships were helpless. Even as their commanders tried to regain control, the humans had them trapped, surrounded by an invisible and unstoppable force. Commander Varnak stood on the bridge of his ship, his fists clenched at his sides. His mind raced, trying to figure out how to regain control. His once proud fleet was now in shambles, a shadow of its former strength. He couldn't believe how quickly things had turned. A single strike had brought them to their knees, and now he faced the impossible task of escaping Earth's grasp. "We have to regroup. We have to fight back," he muttered to his officers. "We cannot let this end like this. The humans have shown us their power, but we are not finished yet." The officers nodded, but even they knew it would be difficult. The Zorath had always believed in their advanced technology, but now it felt as though they were fighting an unknown enemy with an unfair advantage. They couldn't see the force that had disabled their ships, and they couldn't understand how humans had managed to create such a powerful system. All they knew was that they were out of their depth. On Earth, General Alyssa Carter watched the remaining Zorath ships. Her eyes narrowed. She knew that the victory over the flagship had sent a strong message, but she also understood that the Zorath were not easily defeated. They would try to fight back, and humanity needed to be prepared. "We've given them a taste of what we can do," she said, turning to her team. "But this isn't over yet. We need to be ready for their next move." Her voice was calm, yet there was an edge to it. General Carter had spent years preparing for this moment, and she knew that one victory wouldn't be enough. The Zorath were relentless, and if humanity was going to win this battle, they needed to act decisively. The humans had the advantage, but it wasn't just their technology that made them strong. It was their will. "We have to keep them on the defensive," she continued. "If they get the chance to regroup, they could turn this around. We need to strike before they have time to recover." She turned to a young officer at the command station. "Lieutenant, activate the orbital defenses. It's time to finish this." The lieutenant quickly began typing commands into his console, and within moments, the defense systems that had been hidden for years activated. Thousands of satellites, weapon systems, and energy beams began to power up in space, all directed at the Zorath fleet. The humans had been waiting for this moment, and now it was time to show the galaxy just how powerful Earth's defenses really were. Back in space, the Zorath fleet was still in disarray. Without warning, the humans launched a massive counterattack. The first wave of missiles, powerful and precise, shot toward the Zorath ships with deadly accuracy. The aliens, still struggling to regain control, tried to fire back, but their weapons systems were still offline. The missiles struck their targets with devastating force, ripping apart ships and leaving debris floating in space. The Zorath commanders could do nothing but watch in horror as their fleet was torn apart. Their once proud ships, designed to withstand the most powerful weapons, were no match for the relentless attack from humanity's orbital defenses. The Zorath had never encountered anything like this before. It was as though the humans had known exactly how to counter every move they made. Inside the command room of the Zorath flagship, Commander Varnak was losing his grip on the situation. The holographic display in front of him showed the destruction of his fleet in real time. His officers scrambled to make sense of the chaos, but there was little they could do. Their ships were crippled, their weapons useless, and their morale shattered. "We need to retreat," Varnak shouted, slamming his fist against the console in frustration. "We can't keep fighting like this. We'll be destroyed." But it was too late. The humans had anticipated their every move. As the Zorath ships attempted to escape, a second wave of human strikes hit. Energy beams as bright as the sun sliced through the blackness of space, cutting through the hulls of Zorath. Ships with ease. The humans were not just defending Earth. They were attacking with a ferocity that none of the aliens had ever seen. As the beams of light tore through the Zorath ships, Varnak knew that they were done for. There was no escaping. There was no victory. The humans had won. On Earth, General Carter stood in front of the large holographic display, watching the destruction of the Zorath fleet. Her face remained calm, but inside, she felt a surge of pride. Humanity had done what no one thought possible. They had defended their planet, defeated a powerful enemy, and sent a message to the galaxy. We will not be defeated. But Carter knew better than to celebrate too soon. The Zorath were not the only threat out there. There were other species, other forces in the galaxy that would test humanity's strength. This was only the beginning. "We've done it," one of her officers said, breaking the silence. "The Zorath fleet is no more." Carter nodded. "Yes, but don't forget, we've just shown the galaxy what we can do. We need to stay vigilant. The real challenge is still ahead of us." As the last of the Zorath ships was destroyed, the command center erupted in cheers, but Carter's mind was already focused on the future. The victory over the Zorath had been significant, but it was just the first step toward securing humanity's place in the galaxy. In the aftermath of the battle, the Zorath had no choice but to retreat, their once great fleet reduced to debris. The humans, though battered, had emerged victorious. It wasn't just the destruction of the Zorath fleet that mattered. It was the realization that humanity had proven itself to be a force to be reckoned with. And so, the galaxy learned a valuable lesson. Humanity was not just a weak, isolated species. The Zorath, and anyone else who dared challenge Earth, would find out just how powerful humanity could be. As the remains of the Zorath fleet drifted into the darkness of space, the message was clear. No one, not even the most advanced civilizations, in the galaxy could enter human space without facing the consequences. Humanity had awakened, and they would no longer be underestimated. It was only a matter of time before others would come, and when they did, they would find a world prepared for anything. The age of human strength had begun. The galaxy's most powerful species had underestimated Earth. And now, as the remnants of the Zorath Alliance's fleet drifted through space, they were left to contemplate a harsh truth. They had come to conquer, to break the mysterious silence of humanity, but instead, they had been humiliated, outsmarted, and driven from human space. On Earth, General Alyssa Carter stood in her command center, staring at the shattered remains of the Zorath fleet on the massive screen in front of her. The battle had been won, but she knew it wasn't the end. There was still much to do. Humanity had shown its strength, but now the universe would be watching, and the truth about human power would spread, whether the galaxy was ready for it or not. In the wake of the battle, the humans had a new responsibility. They had to control the narrative. The Zorath, broken and scattered, would return to their homeworld, but they would spread the word about what had just occurred. Earth's A. Military strength would no longer be a myth. Other civilizations would now know that humans were not weak, not helpless. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer a species to be ignored. Meanwhile, aboard one of the Zorath command ships, Commander Varnak sat in the silence of his war room. The defeat had hit hard. He had been confident, too confident. The Zorath Alliance had crushed every species it had encountered, and now they had been defeated by a race that only hours ago had seemed so insignificant. "They have revealed something we never knew," Varnak muttered to his officers. "They have something we don't understand, and it is more dangerous than anything we've faced before." One of his senior officers, Tharn, a pale-skinned alien with 3 eyes, nodded grimly. "The humans. They've adapted their technology in ways we didn't expect. We thought we could overwhelm them with our might, but they fought us with precision, intelligence, and something else, something unseen." Varnak clenched his fists, trying to hold back his anger. "We failed. Our fleet is shattered, and now Earth has proven itself capable of protecting itself." For the Zorath, it was not just a military defeat. It was a blow to their pride, to their belief in their superiority. Their empire had always believed that no species could stand against them. Now that belief had been shattered. The Zorath had to face the fact that they were not the strongest force in the galaxy anymore. Back on Earth, General Carter gathered the leaders of humanity's military forces in a secure meeting room. The victory over the Zorath was significant, but she knew that the challenges were just beginning. Earth was now a target, and the galaxy was going to take notice. "We've won this battle," she said, her voice steady. "But we cannot rest. The Zorath are not the only power out there. There will be others, other civilizations who will want to test our strength. Our victory must be a message, a warning. We must be ready for the next threat." Her words were met with solemn nods from the officers and strategists around the table. They understood the gravity of the situation. Humanity had shown that they could defeat a superior force, but that didn't mean the galaxy would suddenly view them as equals. Earth's enemies would come, and when they did, humanity would have to be prepared. Across the galaxy, the news of the Zorath defeat spread like wildfire. It wasn't just a defeat. It was a revelation. Every race that had once viewed humans as insignificant now had to question their assumptions. The Zorath, who had dominated the galaxy for centuries, had been forced to retreat by a species they had dismissed as primitive. In the heart of the Kavros Federation, a powerful alliance of alien species, the leaders met in a tense, closed-door session. Supreme Leader Qatar, a towering figure with metallic skin, slammed his fist on the table. "This cannot be. The Zorath have failed. They were supposed to crush Earth, but instead they were humiliated." An advisor, a small and quick-witted alien, spoke up. "The Zorath have not yet given us the full story. What exactly happened? How did humans defeat them?" "The Zorath were overwhelmed," Qatar growled. "Their technology failed. They were outmaneuvered at every turn. It was as if Earth had been preparing for this day for centuries. They have something we don't understand, something we can't see." A younger advisor, her voice trembling with fear, added, "Does this mean the humans are more powerful than we thought?" The room fell silent. The question hung in the air. No one wanted to admit it, but the truth was undeniable. Humans had defeated the Zorath, the most advanced and feared species in the galaxy, and if the humans could defeat them, what would stop them from taking on anyone else? Back on Earth, General Carter's team worked tirelessly to strengthen humanity's defenses. The humans had shown the galaxy their strength, but they also knew that being unprepared could lead to their downfall. The Zorath defeat was just the beginning. Other civilizations would come, whether in peace or war, and humanity had to be ready. Carter stood on the balcony of the command center, looking out at the bustling city below. Earth had never been stronger. They had proven their worth to the universe. But the cost had been high. Thousands of soldiers, thousands of civilians, and countless resources had been spent in the battle. But she wasn't thinking about the cost. She was thinking about the future. The humans had awakened, and now the galaxy would know their strength. As she turned back to the command room, her mind was already focused on the next steps. "Prepare for a message to be sent to the galaxy," she ordered. "We are not just another species in the universe. We are humanity, and we will defend our home against anyone who dares to challenge us." Across the stars, the Zorath regrouped, their pride shattered. They would have to face the galaxy's judgment, and their defeat at the hands of humanity would become a dark chapter in their history. They had come to conquer, but instead, they had awakened something they could not control. Back on Earth, humanity's future was bright. The galaxy would soon learn the true power of the human race. No longer would Earth be a quiet, ignored world. In the distant corner of the universe, humanity had proven their strength, and now they would shape their own destiny. The Zorath Alliance was in ruins. What had once been a proud and powerful force in the galaxy was now a broken shadow of itself. Their fleets, their technology, their military strength, everything had crumbled before the might of humanity. The Zorath would forever carry the shame of their defeat, and their reputation had been tarnished in the eyes of the galaxy. But the Zorath were not the only species to notice humanity's rise. As news of the Zorath's failure spread across the stars, other civilizations began to take notice. They had once viewed Earth as a backwater planet, far from the center of the galaxy's power. But now, the humans had proven that they were far more than just a primitive species. They were strong, resilient, and most importantly, capable of defending themselves. In the Tilak Empire, a powerful and ancient species that had long dominated their corner of the galaxy, leaders gathered to discuss the implications of the humans' unexpected victory. Empress Thalra, a tall and imposing figure with sharp, angular features, stood at the head of the council, her eyes narrowed in thought. "Reports are coming in from all over the galaxy," she said, her voice cold and measured. "The Zorath have been defeated not by superior technology, but by some unknown force. The humans have something they have not shared with us, something we need to understand." One of the advisors, Sarak, a scholar who had spent years studying human history, spoke up. "There are whispers, Empress, whispers that humans possess not only advanced technology, but an intelligence and strategy that no one saw coming. Their ability to adapt and counter our best moves. It's unlike anything we've encountered." Empress Thalra's eyes flashed with concern. "We must investigate. We cannot afford to underestimate them as the Zorath did. Their victory was not a fluke. We cannot allow ourselves to be caught off guard." The council members exchanged uneasy glances. The Tilak Empire had always prided itself on its technological supremacy, but now the humans had proven that sheer power wasn't enough to win a battle. There was something deeper at play, something that made Earth a far more dangerous adversary than anyone had imagined. Back on Earth, General Alyssa Carter sat in the quiet of her command center, reviewing the data from the recent battle. The Zorath Alliance had been defeated, but she knew that this victory had come at a price. The galaxy had taken notice, and with that attention came danger. The humans were no longer an unknown species. The world had proven its strength, but now humanity had to be prepared for the consequences. "We have sent our message," Carter said, speaking to her team. "But we must be ready for what comes next. Other species will come, testing our strength, seeking to challenge us. We can't afford to be complacent. We must continue to strengthen our defenses, adapt to new threats, and remain vigilant." Her team nodded, knowing the seriousness of the situation. The humans had proven their worth, but the real challenge had only just begun. There would be more battles to fight, more enemies to face. Earth's victory over the Zorath was just the first step toward a much larger future. Across the galaxy, the ripple effect of humanity's victory was being felt. The Kavros Federation, a collection of powerful alien races, held an emergency meeting to discuss the implications of the humans' rise to power. Supreme Leader Qatar, the leader of the Federation, was not one to shy away from difficult decisions. He knew that the Zorath defeat had changed everything. "We cannot allow Earth to grow unchecked," Qatar said, his voice deep and commanding. "If we let humanity continue to gain strength, they will eventually challenge us. The Zorath have already learned that lesson the hard way. We must move quickly to assert our dominance before they become a threat to us." One of the Federation's generals, Drak Tul, a massive alien with 3 horns on his head, spoke with equal authority. "The humans have proven themselves capable of defending their home. But we must not forget, they are still small in number compared to the great powers of the galaxy. We can crush them if we act swiftly." Qatar nodded. "We will take action. We will test their resolve. We cannot let them become a rival to the Kavros Federation." Back on Earth, General Carter had no illusions about the challenges ahead. The Zorath had been only the beginning. She had prepared humanity for this day, knowing that if they ever revealed their true strength, the galaxy would come for them. But now that the world had proven its power, it was time to make the next move. "The Zorath may have retreated, but others will come," she said, her voice firm. "We need to send a message. We need to make it clear that Earth is no longer a target for anyone." She turned to her officers. "Prepare the next phase of our operations. We'll reach out to the galaxy. We'll show them that humanity is ready to stand as equals with the most powerful civilizations." Humanity had always been the underdog, the species that was overlooked and underestimated. But now, they were standing at the threshold of something much larger. The galaxy would no longer view Earth as a weak, isolated planet. The humans had proven themselves, and now they would step into the larger world of galactic politics, power, and diplomacy. A few days later, General Carter addressed the galaxy directly. Using advanced communication systems, her image appeared across all known channels, broadcast to every major civilization. "This is General Alyssa Carter, commander of Earth's military forces," she began. "We have proven to the galaxy that we are not to be underestimated. The Zorath Alliance came to conquer, and they were defeated. We are no longer a species that hides in the shadows. We are ready to stand as equals with any civilization that respects our sovereignty." Her voice was calm, but there was a steel edge to it. "We are not looking for war, but we will not back down. If any civilization wishes to challenge us, we are ready. We will protect our home. We will protect our people." The broadcast ended with the unmistakable message that humanity had arrived on the galactic stage. The universe now knew that Earth was no longer the underdog. The humans had proved that they were capable of great things, and they would not stand idly by while other species tried to conquer them. Back in the Talak Empire, Empress Thalra stared at the screen showing General Carter's message. The Zorath had learned their lesson, and now, the rest of the galaxy would have to decide how to respond. The message from Earth was clear. Humanity had arrived, and they were not afraid to defend themselves. The Empress turned to her council. "We must proceed with caution. The humans have shown they are more than just a weak species. We will need to learn more about them. We will need to understand their true potential." The galaxy was changing, and humanity was no longer on the outside. Earth had proven itself, and the other species in the galaxy would now have to decide whether they would be allies or enemies. As the galaxy watched, one thing was certain. Humanity was no longer just a small, insignificant species. They were a force to be reckoned with.